Hi everyone, and welcome to Tom's Manshed, and welcome to part 2 of fitting the front and rear dash cam in the MG4. Now, I dare say if you're looking at this part 2, you've already seen part 1, but if you haven't, check out the link above to part 1, where I describe all on how to actually install the wiring itself to the rear cam and the front cam, taking the A-pillar side bit off, feeding it up through the rubber boot at the hatchback and all that. At the end of that video, I've split it into 2 because it was getting extremely long. At the end of that video, we'd got all the wiring in place to the dash cams, and we just got the wires to connect at the fuse box. So in this video, again, it's going to be long and drawn out because I want to put as much detail in there as possible. And some of it is quite important with the fuses. So if you do want to skip any unwanted bits and zoom straight to the bit you want, or cut out any boring bits or whatever, use the timeline underneath and I'll itemize where we're at each stage of the video. So like I said, we're at the stage of wiring it up to the fuse box. Now, the dash cam I have got, again, if you've not send me original review on that, it's a great dash cam. Check out the card above here for a full review of that. And in that review I go into detail about what the power supply to it does, the hard wiring kit. Now, the dash cam I've got has a park facility, which means that you can set the camera up to detect movement while the vehicle is parked up at night and locked. Normally a dash cam will only come on when you've turned the ignition on, started the engine and you're driving along. And then when you turn the engine off and lock the car at night, it shuts off, otherwise it would use all your battery. Because it's surprising how much power these things can use. It could, particularly if your car's parked up for any great length of time, and you could come back to a totally flat battery. So what you get in most hard wiring kits is a little gizmo, and you'll see it in this video, where you can set the voltage on the side to shut off the power to the dash cam should the battery drop below a certain voltage, and that's selectable between like 11.8, 12, 12.2 and 12.4 volts. So as soon as your battery say dropped to 12 volts, it would stop discharging it, but that would have still given you a few hours of parking protection to pick up movement. So that's why I need, on wiring up to this, a switched live, which all dash cams need, and a permanent live, because it has to have a live to it even when your car is turned off and locked. So what we need to do is find out which fuses on the fuse box are live when the car is locked, and which fuses are live only when the car is turned on. So first of all, I'm going to show you here the different fuses you can get, and then I'll just put the fuses that are used on the MG on the bench and explain why it's very, very important to get the 2-pin one the right way round. So let's just go down to desk view now. Okay, so why there needs to be so many different fuses in cars, I don't know. But this is I think this is called a standard size fuse, mainly on older cars. Most modern ones tend to have the smaller ones. But that's just that size blade fuse, various colours denoting the current draw. Let's say orange, let's say 5 amp. And these are all the things you'll use, the piggyback connectors. So we don't need that. That's not on the MG4. This one, however, is called a Micro 3. As you see, it's got 3 prongs on the fuse as well. This one is a Mini. And they've got letters as well denoting these things. I can't remember what they are, but I think this is called the Mini fuse. Again, we don't use that on the MG4. And this one is a low profile micro. I quite like these because they seem the easiest to push the fuses in and get them out. You've got a bit of extra grip, you can get your finger in there down that side thing, and you can see the fuse sideways as well, and they stick out a lot less. But I've not had any vehicles that use that yet. So that's the low profile micro. So we've got micro 3 and micro 2. Now the micro 3 one, the power comes down, your 12 volt supply comes down the center prong, and it then goes either of two ways or both ways to power respective circuits. Now I will be using one of these for the switched live, which I'll be showing you shortly on the MG. There's two vertical orientated fuses, again, which we'll be having a look at shortly, serving, one of them serves the front 12 volt cigarette lighter, the sort of like the auxiliary power socket. I always just call it the cigar lighter. And on that, you'll see when I've taken the fuse out, the power comes down the centre one, and there's only one circuit in it. The bottom of the socket is just free. There's no contact in that because it's just serving one item, the 12 volt socket. The other one of these, the 5 amp one, that's a 15 amp one because it's serving a 12 volt socket, which can have quite a lot of current draw, depending on what you've plugged into it. The other one is for the front wireless phone charger and the rear USB socket. So that has got two contacts, you'll see in the female bit in the fuse box that we plug it into. So power will come down here and out to one circuit or the other. So like I said, we're going to be using that for the switched live. So I'm just squeezing this in here because I realised that I could have used a micro 2 piggyback adapter for the socket that I've picked. You can see there the two top left hand ones, the vertical orientated ones under the relay, the blue and the brown one. The one on the left, the 15 amp, is the one to the 12 volt cigar socket at the front of the car. It's 15 amp because you might plug a power hungry appliance like a tire inflator or whatever in there, so it needs to be 15 amp. But it is only serving that one circuit. Power comes down the middle pin, as explained, and then it goes on that one out of the top pin to the 12 volt cigar socket. There is nothing connected to the bottom pin. The one on the right, the brown 5 amp one, is the one feeding the rear USB socket and the front wireless phone charger. So again, power down the center pin, and it'll go out the top to one of them. I don't know which is top or bottom, but one of them is the rear USB and the other one is the wireless phone charger. So you'll see better here in this next two pics that that has got all three pins connected, and the one on the left that we'll be using has only got the one pin connected. So that's the left one out, and it wasn't until I took it out that I realised that you can see there's no bottom pin there. You've got the power down the centre pin, you can see a tiny bit of sort of like copper at the back, and then the female connector at the top is the one that goes to the cigar socket, but there's nothing on the bottom one. You can see the difference better in this next picture. So you can see with both fuses out there, the one on the right has got two separate circuits, top and bottom. So having decided to use the 15 amp one, because it's only serving one item, which isn't that important, 12 volt cigar socket, you wouldn't tend to plug any of these piggyback adapters into something vital like your control unit for the engine, for the motors and things like that. But yeah, we're going to use that top left. So I could have actually used a 2-pin piggyback adapter and a 2-pin fuse. So if you are short of the 3-pin variety, you could use that. It's probably not a good idea because it's going to look different than on the MG chart. So any future engineer in the service department or whatever wondering why there's only a a 2-pin fuse in a 3-pin socket will be wondering why. So I've used the 3-pin piggyback and the 3-pin fuse. So I'll show you which pin the accessory lead on the triple pin piggyback adapter is connected to in this nest bit now. So what I could have done, because here we've got the 2 centre pins bits inserted into them just to test, and you'll see we're getting continuity between the 2 centre pins because they're both for the live pickup, but on this one it will go one way to one circuit and one way to the other circuit on the car, but remember the car's only got one circuit on this particular socket. So which one is this, the other end, connected to of this plug? Well, it's the one nearest to it. If we put that one in there, so if we connect one end of the multimeter to the last pin, the pin nearest the wire of the fuse there, and the other bit of it in here, you can see we're getting continuity there. But if we put it in the top pin, so it's in the top pin of the plug now, we're not getting continuity. So on these 3-pin micro 3 plugs, the red wire is not connected to that. I thought they may have connected this red wire to both of them, but no. So you could only run one accessory off this plug. So knowing that, I could have used just a normal micro 2 adapter, because only one pin has been used on the MG to power the 12-volt socket, and I could have just used a thing. Or alternatively, if you haven't got a 3-pin fuse for this, you could just put a 2-pin one in there. It's just coming down the centre pin and this way to the accessory here. So that's the micro 3. Let's put that to one side. Now this is the important one that you get right, the micro 2. Like I said, with the 3, the power comes down the centre one only, so you can't get that wrong. On this, on the fuse box, you've got to know which one the power comes to, because you could plug it in either way round and the thing would work. But I'll show you on a little diagram in a second. I'll show you why it is important that you get this the right way round. So on all these fuses, the one with the wire on that's feeding your new appliance, your new auxiliary, your new accessory, in this case a dash cam, is the one here, the one nearest it goes up to, these outer 2 sockets here. These 2 are the ones for the original fuse you've just taken out. So in our case, on the triple one, we're using a 15 amp one. So your 15 to your original fused item on the fuse box goes to that, and your new dash cam one that this red wire is feeding is this fuse on the outside. So you can put them in. But it is important that we connect the permanent the live feed to the fuse box to this pin here, the end pin nearest the edge of the thing. So that's the pin that needs to go in the live supply to the fuse box, and then through the fuse to the item. So I'll just show you on this little diagram here. Now there is a video I'll put a link to on YouTube. I've looked at quite a few of them, and the one I put a link to below is one of the easiest ones to understand, and he explains it much better than I do. But if you can imagine what I've just shown you now, that fuse holder, so that's representing this diagram here. So the right way is the power through this pin here. So your 12 volts is coming up to this pin, and that pin is bridged inside to both the pins this side. So your power will come down here, it will go through your 10 amp fuse here, and then go down here, this pin, to the original thing it's supplying in the car. Then this pin, like I say, both these are connected. It goes through the 5 amp fuse to your dash cam or whatever accessory you're fitting. So if either of these fuses blows, if that blows, it just cuts off power to your dash cam. If this blows, it cuts off power to the original item. And either one is just getting its full power through that respective fuse. Now, if you feed the power in through this one, get it the wrong way around, what can happen is, because these two are connected here, the original component can be drawing the full current of both components, because it can be going through this way round here and getting a feed that way. So there is a danger that if both items were drawing, say, 6 amps, you'd be getting 12 amps being drawn through the one component. So I've not explained it probably very well, but that's the best I can do. Like I said, I've put a link underneath to a much, much better explanation to it. But like I said, the important thing is, don't just put it willy-nilly any way round like a lot do show on YouTube. Make sure that pin, the outside pin, is the one that goes to the live in to the fuse box, not this bottom pin. So hopefully that explained it. I'm not great at explaining things like this, but like I said, check out the link below, and it does give a really good YouTube video on explaining it thoroughly. So let's go to the car now, and I'll show you how I found out which fuses were permanently live, even when the car is turned off and locked, and which are switched live that are only on when we turn the car on. And I'll show you wiring each lead of the dash cam supply up to its respective output from the fuse box. Okay, so as you can see, the car is sort of like on at the moment. I'm not press the foot brake or anything, but it's as if you're sat in the seat with the keys, and it's like in its full sort of ready mode. You can see the multimeter there. If we touch on all these, and these 3-pronged ones, like I said, the power comes up the centre. So if we click on all of these, we're getting 14 volts. Because it's as if sort of like the engine is running, the alternator's running, and it's charging the battery. So we're getting on there. And again, on all these in the middle, these 2-pronged ones, on every single one, we're getting 14 volts, as we are on these 2 top ones. So if you can see there, these 2 top ones, as I push the multimeter there, you can see it's gone up to 14 volts on that one. That one there, the 5 amp one, is the one that feeds the rear USB socket and the phone charging socket. And this one here, 15 amp, is for the centre cigarette lighter, the centre 12 volt socket. Now you can see they're getting 14 volts. But if we now go over to here, starting from the home screen, if we go onto the car symbol, and then over at the top on the safety tab and click power off. Right, that has now shut the power off, like sort of getting out and locking it. And I won't go through every one again, but you'll see these are all still live. We're getting 12 volts here now, because this is now just, it's like the engine turned off, but they are still live. See, we're down to 12 volts. I don't know whether you can see that. 12.6 volts, because like I said, it's not as if the engine's running the engine and alternator in a petrol car. But you can see these are all still live, so we're wanting a switched live one, and luckily these two up here, you can see now there's nothing on them. 0 volts. So these two here, 5 amp and the 15 amp, 3-pronged ones, they are switched live. Everything else I've tested is permanent live. So, like I say, if you've got a camera like mine that needs switched live and permanent live, connect your switch live to either of these two up here and one of the permanent lives, any of them. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I showed you earlier on when I was doing the desktop demonstration, that's the socket we're going to use. So I won't go into it all again now, but you can see the, as I explained before, there's only one connection there at the top to it. So that's the one we're going to be using, the 15 amp one, for the switched live of the Dashcam. And there again, I showed you a picture grabbed from this video before, showing you the difference. The one on the right, you can see, has got 2 outputs. I already explained what they were for. The one on the left, the one we're using, has just got the 1 output. And we're going to put our own 5 amp fuse in there for the Dashcam. That's all we need. So I'll plug them in now and you can see it in place. So you can see there I've got the 5 amp one there, that's in line with the wire here. So that is going to be feeding the switched live of the Dashcam. And then the original fuse that was in there, the 15 amp feeding the power socket, is in that one that is nearest to the plug. So that's going to be as it was, but our new circuit is going to be protected by just a 5 amp fuse, which is all we need for a Dashcam. Now, when I came to plug this in to the receptacle on the fuse box, it just wouldn't go in. I thought, oh God, I've ordered the wrong one or whatever, but no, you can only get these triple ones in the micro. And when I looked at the fuse, it looked exactly the same, and it was confusing. I just could not get the little thing in. So what I found was this plastic here. You see the second one I'm cutting it, but it's a tiny, tiny bit too big. So I just had to shave a midges off it. So once you've got one of these, if you do have trouble pushing it in, just shave a bit of that plastic off each side. You only need a slither off. I didn't actually film myself doing it. I forgot to film that bit. So I filmed this bit after, just holding the knife where I mean on this. So let's have a look at that now. So this is where I had to shave. Just cutting a slight bit off there. And off there, this is another plug. So yeah, as you saw there, it was easy enough just to shave that bit off. And once I'd done it, it glided in dead easy. So right, we'll carry on with the thing now. So that's the switched live sorted out. I'll now show you which one of the permanent live fuses, the 2-pin ones, I picked to power the permanent live of the Dashcam. So the one I'm going to use is this one. So F22 temperature control. So I'm going to take that one out, and then I'll double check which is the live in pin, left or the right. So you can see with the fuse removed there, power out to the actual thing it's powering is the one on the left. So on these piggybacks, that is the power in, the one at the extreme end. So that is the one we want in the right hand side. So like I say, it's the right hand side of this fuse holder, which is the power in, and on this one, the piggyback, that is this pin here. So we're going to be placing that one in there, and that's going to be the permanent live. Okay, so we've got everything in place now. So just to go through it one more time, this one is your switched live to your dash cam. If you've got a dash cam that hasn't got a parking mode that carries on recording in with the ignition off, that's the only one you'll need, the switched live. And this is the permanent live, feeding that facility on the dash cam. The original fuse for this is at the back. The new 5 amp fuse feeding the dash cam is there, and the same on that one. Now, one strange thing, as you see, I've had to put an earth here. I've got the earth strap for my multimeter on there, and as you can see, if I touch there, you're hearing the bleep, as on that one, as on that. So we've got an earth there. I had originally clamped it to here. Now you'd think this was an earth. It comes through the plastic fuse box, but the bolt itself is touching the chassis behind, and there's something clamped below it as if it's an earth, and yet if you listen, as I'm touching it, even the scratched bit I've scratched there, we're not getting a beep. And sure enough, when I connected my switch to it and turned it on and off, the switch just wasn't coming on. So what that is, I don't know, but if it's an earth, I don't know how I'm not picking up any earth from it, and yet I am on the one I fitted here. So that completes it under there, all the wiring done. As you can see, I've labelled everything each side. Switched live to main switch, switch live to switch, permanent live, and everything is labelled up, so everything's insulated and crimped on properly with bullet connectors there. Now, I've mentioned already about my dashcam having a permanent live to it for the park mode. So when your car is switched off, there is power all the time to the dashcam. Now, that's okay, but I did want a means of interrupting that power. I'm not sort of quite comfortable with having no means of disconnecting the power to the camera other than actually taking the camera off its little clip. Most of the time I will want it on to activate park mode. And there is a little device, which you'll see later on, which you can select a certain voltage so it won't run your battery, your 12 volt car battery, down below a certain level. So once it reaches like 11.8 or 12 or 12.2 volts or whatever you've selected, it will say, hey, I'm flattening your car back, your 12 volt battery, I'm going to shut off. Which is fair enough, so there's not much chance of going back to a flattened battery, but I do still like a means of totally disconnecting it. If I leave the car up the drive for say a couple of weeks, if ever I go on holiday, I never go on holiday, by the way, very rarely runs out in the car. I've not been abroad since 2014, but that's by the by. But if I did want to shut off for long term the power to the sat-nav, I prefer to have a separate switch for it. So as you'll see here, I've sort of drilled a little hole under the very base of the dash. Whenever I sell the car, I can take this out, I can replace that with a grommet. Nobody'd even know the hole was ever there. And I've put this switch in it, just one like this, and that hangs down underneath, and it emits a green light, so I can peer through the window to see that there is power still on. And I've done that. 24 hours later, after doing this wiring, I looked in and it was still powered up, so it is a permanent live I've definitely connected to, and you just click it to bring it on and off. So that was this. I'm going to put a link to it below. I'm pretty sure I got this off either eBay or AliExpress. I don't think I got one, but if I can find a similar one on Amazon, I'll put a link to that as well. But you get that, and you get the full instructions on how to wire everything. I go into all the details on wiring this bit up, and it's a separate. You can get them with or without the plug, the female plug here. If you get them without, you've got to solder all your connections or put little ones on, and it's not easy remembering which is which. So I like getting the ones with the plug, and then you can wire that up and then just plug the switch in and out. And if your switch goes faulty, it's a simple matter to swap. So I'll put a card up here on where I go into more detail. It was on the wiring in the MG4 I did. So that's just to point out what this switch is now. You don't have to have one. You can put your hard wiring kit direct to the permanent live without a switch, but if you do want to do what I've done, you'll see it in action now. Oh, I forgot to add, I'm just squeezing this bit in, if you do get one of these, make sure you get one that is latching. Look for it in the description, latching. I've made the mistake before and not got a latching one. What a latching means is when you push it in, it stays in. When you push it again, it turns off. There are ones that are like a momentary press, it's only on while you're holding it in, and as soon as you let go, it goes off. So obviously that would be totally impractical. You actually require a latching one, so make sure you get a latching one. So you can see we've got the switch loose for now. That will go in its hole. I'll show you that shortly in its final position, facing down. So you can see there's nothing showing, and as I push the power button, see, it's glowing green, and it's booting up, and we've got a rear camera image. The hatch is up at the moment, so it's just viewing nothing, and we've got the view of the front view here. So everything working. So just got to put that under there for one final time. Stick the mount on there, and then put all this lot back. So we'll just put that switch back in position now. So that's the switch in position now. So it's just a matter now of re-screwing this bottom panel on that we took off before. So it's just a matter of checking everything is in there and screwing this bottom panel on now. So we'll lift these lugs over here at the bottom. It's a bit hard to show because it's deep in there, but there's some lugs that go up in there, and then screw it back, and then it's just a matter of pushing that up there. So we'll get them screws in the bottom first. So those two screws, we've got one there, and we've got the other one where my finger is there, if you remember before, just to the left of this speaker outlet. It's then just a matter of putting these tabs, these white top tabs, in their respective slots and shoving that one up and that one up there. So get them up now. That's it, all shoved back. Just got these two screws to put in now. So I forgot to show you before, but part of the hard wiring kit, I detail this on my other video, putting the same kit in my ZS and going into the Dashcam in detail. But what that is like a voltage cut-off unit, so that you can set that with a little switch here on the side to stop discharging your car battery when it drops to either a selectable 11.8 volts, 12 volts, 12.2 volts or 12.4 volts. So if you'd set it at, say, 11.8 volts, it would only run your battery, your 12 volt battery, down to 11.8 volts before it's shut off, so you're not going to come back to a totally dead battery. So I have mine set on the 12 volts one, and there's a little selection switch here on the side. I've mounted it there, so if I did need to alter it, I've got access to it just from getting the side panel off. So finally we're near the summit. We've only got the last panel to put on now. So yeah, that little voltage selector switch, you'll get that with most hard wiring kits. Looks like they're usually an extra with the dash cam, because most just plug it in the cigar, but I don't like a wire leading down and plugging it in the cigar socket. I much prefer the hard wiring option. So if it doesn't come with a hard wiring kit, there is usually one available in a third party or by the manufacturer, but that's what that little voltage selector is there. So right, final bits now is putting back that side panel and the door trim, and then tucking the cables in finally at the top and attaching the cam. So we'll do that now, and this will be the final bit. All that's left to do now is put the side panel back. You might want to just pull, you've probably pushed it back in place by this time, but you might want to just pull that off again, just to make it a bit easier to get this in. And as you can see, it just goes behind that trim, and there's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 catches. Yeah, it's better tucking it behind the door trim at the bottom, lining up that there. Right, seems right, and it's just a matter of belting it into place now. Okay, so that's all, and then just put your door trim. Okay, it's all in place now. If you're familiar with these cameras, you can see I've got the power plugged straight into the camera, not the GPS base. I don't know what it is about these. They're a fantastic camera, but the connection with the base can sometimes be a pig. That is a brand new base that I ordered about 6 months ago, but I've only just got around to fitting. I've just taken it out of its jiffy bag, brand spanking new, peeled the backing tape off the really sticky pad, but when I put it on, it connects for a few seconds and then goes off. Yeah, so I've got the power plug plugged in there. I've cleaned all these contacts here, all the brass contacts underneath. So I'm going to email VIOFO and see if they can come up with a solution. But anyway, that's by the by. It's nothing to do with this video, but that's it. Job done. All the cables in place and all working. Okay, so that's all the wiring done now. So if that's all you're watching this video for, it's that you can turn off now. It's a job done, and I hope it's helped. But yeah, like I just mentioned there, on this VIOFO camera, I love every part about it. There's a phone amp, you can look through and view from your phone and adjust all the settings there or on it. It's very compact, you can't see it hanging down or anything. And you can use it in 2 modes. You can plug, again, I've gone into a full review of this. Look back at one of my other things, or put a card up here or whatever. And one of the features of it with most is the GPS, but the GPS is built into this, the base plate. So that screws to your windscreen, and then you clip the camera on here. Or you can put the USB power socket and the rear camera direct into the camera. And as you saw there, it works fine on that. But when I plug it into here, it's not picking up any power. It powers for about 5 seconds, then stops. And I was thinking it's probably these little brass contacts or whatever, but I've thoroughly cleaned them. I've had proper electrical contact cleaner on them, tried IPA and the corresponding female bits on the camera, and I just can't get to it. And that was the old one. I've got the brand new one on the car, so hopefully I'll resolve that. But if not, I'll just have to plug the plug into the camera and do away with the GPS. All that does is put your location and everything on the video of the screen. But if you don't want it to automatically log where you are or whatever, that's fine. You can use it without this. So yeah, that's the whole thing done. Just to show you how good this camera is visual wise, it's 4K, and 4K makes a big difference when you're zooming into like a number plate. I did a whole video on the camera, again, check out that one. But just as a quick snippet now, to show you some day and night shots front and rear from the camera. With wide dynamic range off and the polarizing filter on. There doesn't seem to be a polarizing filter driving from sort of like yellow lights towards white lights. You can see there's plenty of detail there. Some say we are with the WDR on. You can see that is a lot more balanced. There's more full advantage of the 4K resolution at night in low light conditions, really. But so yeah, good footage from the camera. And like I say, if anybody has had that same problem with it not connecting to the base, please let me know in the comments. It'd be great if we could find a solution. So once again, thanks for watching this video. If it has been a help, I know it's been long and drawn out again, but I did want to go into great detail, particularly about getting the 2-pin fuses the right way around, because that is very, very important. But yeah, hopefully any snags I made, you won't make the same ones after you've watched this video. And like I said, hopefully it's been of some use. So if it has, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. If it hasn't, by all means, give me a thumbs down. If you haven't already subscribed, please click the picture here of the shed. And once you've done that, click the bell icon below and you'll be alerted to any new uploads I do. As mentioned before, any links I give are usually affiliate links where I make a small bit of commission, pennies usually, if you buy something from that browsing session, but it's all helps the channel keep going. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. Catch you for the next one very, very soon. Bye for now.